From Washington, this is VOA News. U.S. authorities expand the deployment of National Guard troops in a riot-hit Midwestern town, and dozens of people are killed in a double suicide bombing in northern Nigeria. I'm Michael Lipin. The mayor of the riot-torn U.S. town of Ferguson, Missouri, says the National Guard was not deployed quickly enough to quell unrest that erupted after a grand jury decided not to indict a white police officer in the shooting death of an unarmed black teenager. Mayor James Knowles called for Missouri's governor to deploy more security resources to the town to prevent further destruction of property and threats to people's livelihood. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon responded to that by nearly tripling the number of troops in Ferguson in a bid to head off another night of unrest. The St. Louis suburb exploded in violence and looting Monday night after a grand jury declined to indict police officer Darren Wilson in the fatal shooting of 18-year-old Michael Brown in August. St. Louis County officials said 61 people were arrested on a variety of charges. Earlier Tuesday, Brown's parents appeared at a news conference in a Ferguson church alongside their lawyers and civil rights leader Al Sharpton. They described the grand jury decision announced on Monday as completely unfair. Reports from Nigeria say 2 female suicide bombers have attacked a market in the northeastern city of Maiduguri, killing dozens of people. Witnesses say Tuesday's attack began with the first bomber setting off her explosives and killing several people. As people gathered at the blast site, they say the second attacker blew herself up. A reporter for VOA in Maiduguri put the death toll at 37. You're listening to VOA News. Syrian rights activists say Syrian government warplanes have killed at least 60 people in airstrikes on the region of Raqqa, where Islamic State militants have established a self-proclaimed capital. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said Tuesday's strikes hit an industrial zone and a popular market near the city's museum. The observatory says at least 36 of those killed were civilians. More than a dozen others were wounded, some of them critically. The Syrian government has launched frequent attacks on Islamic State targets in Raqqa. Rights activists say many of the casualties have been civilians. Pope Francis has made a rare address by a Vatican leader to the European Parliament and the Council of Europe in the French city of Strasbourg. In both forums, the pontiff called on Europe to re-embrace its principles of human rights and democracy. Lisa Bryant reports.
In the first papal address ever to the European Union Parliament, the pontiff urged the 28-member bloc to support a courageous, open, and humanitarian immigration policy. The Pope urged EU lawmakers to keep democracy alive. He warned against a political and economic union that puts bureaucracy ahead of great ideas. He said he wanted to bring a message of hope to a demoralized Europe that risked losing its soul and humanistic spirit. Lisa Bryant, Paris.
The world's biggest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, and other key producers have failed to reach agreement to cut production as a way to stop the sharp drop in oil prices. Saudi Oil Minister Ali Al-Naimi met on Tuesday in Vienna with key energy officials from Venezuela, Russia, and Mexico before Thursday's meeting of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. But the 4 countries agreed only to monitor world oil prices and meet again in 3 months. The 12-nation OPEC cartel, including Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, supplies about a third of the world's oil, while Russia and Mexico, which are not OPEC members, are also key producers. Some countries are pressing Riyadh to cut its production to support global oil prices that have dropped 30% since June to below $80 a barrel. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says the United States and what he called European colonialist powers have failed in their efforts to bring Iran to its knees during negotiations on the country's nuclear program. The comments posted on Khamenei's website on Tuesday are his first since negotiators from Iran and a group of world powers agreed to extend talks on Iran's nuclear program until the middle of next year. I'm Michael Lipin in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.